Hello everyone and welcome to this walkthrough of the text guide for the Platinum Resorts tournament with me, Tommy. I would like Gold Flash Tommy, Mr. RJTV. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, just back home now after a lovely vacation and ready to get back at it. For you that did watch the latest walkthrough of the text guide, I did that myself, so I'm happy to have you here so you can help me out, or like we can help each other out to cover everything when it comes to the tournament here. So the thing that we're going to do here in the video is as normal. We'll go over hole number 1 to hole number 9 for rookie, pro, expert and master. RJ is going to be a little bit more focused on for those that are playing rookie, and then we're going to complete each other after that. I'm of course going to be a little bit more focused in master as I'm playing in the master tournaments. So if you do have any questions, please let us know in the comment section down below. And it doesn't have to be just on my channel, it can be on RJ's channel as well, as this video is going to be there. So I'm so pumped, I'm so ready. And I hope you are as well, my friend. And I think we go directly to hole number 1, par 5. How do we play this one?
This is actually one of my favorite holes. Knowing ahead of time that we have this hole, as opposed to actually just getting it in the tours, I would say to bring a quarterback, because a powerful drive is not the most important part of this hole. So if we bring the quarterback along with a Titan, we can get some of that distance back, use as much top spin as you're comfortable with to try to get as close to the rough up top by that second black box as possible, but be very careful not to actually go into the rough. And this is why I love the quarterback for the accuracy and ball guide. This will set you up perfectly if you have a sniper. My second favorite choice for rookies would probably be a Viper for a rough bump shot. And if you can perfect it throughout the tournament, maybe on the weekend you can actually get it in there for the eagle.
I can just build on that, as I really do like this par 5, and in many times we're going to see a very good opportunity to getting an albatross. If we talk about the second tee first, we are most likely going to play with a power 3 ball. Power 1, power 2 ball will work if having tailwind or crosswind, but I would say a power 3 ball would be the best suggestion here. Sniper as a second shot, a second club, if you do want to go for the rough bump. If you do want to go with a bit more conservative route, and I say conservative even though I think both of them are conservative, is that you can play with the Guardian directly onto the green, as according to the white line. Max backspin is required, and going to want to aim for the right side of the green, as the green slopes down to the left, which is going to give you that roll with the backspin combined to when you get it to stop to roll down towards the pin. I'm going to go for the rough bump because I feel comfortable doing so, but I want to explain about that Guardian shot as well, because especially if we do have some wind and you do not feel comfortable about the rough bump, then you can play according to that. In Master, it's going to be the same. The only difference is going to be from the third tee. Headwind, we're going to have a big problem to even reach for the fairway, but in tailwind we can actually go to green directly if we do play a hook shot, which is not something I hope for, but it is going to be possible. I do think it's important to have in mind that you have the fairway sloping down a little bit to the left on the first piece of fairway, which is, in terms of having the rough and the bunker to the left, play deliberately a little bit to the right if you can, and so you're just following the fairway, and then you're going to fall in nicely there on the fairway, because the only dangerous part here is to go in the rough on the or the bunker on the left, because that means that we're not going to be able to reach for the green in two.
I
So
agree with the rookies as well.
boom. Well, hole number 2, we do have a bunch of lines here, and it's going to be very interesting. Which way do we take on this one?
Okay, well, I always played according to the black line until you, not you watching, but him up above me, taught me how to use the yellow line, and I absolutely love it, because even if I were to roll just a little too far into the rough, my Nirvana would still be able to bail me out. So I would also recommend this to my rookies. As long as we don't have a wind in our face, take the yellow line. You need to be careful with that topspin. Just because you can use a your rough iron to get there doesn't mean that that's the easiest way to do it. So we're going to use the extra mile, and we're going to use about 2 top spin, and I like about 2 to 3 right spin as well. Bring with you a wood club and a long iron that both have a good amount of backspin for that second shot to get you to stick up on the green right next to the flag, possibly in the hole if you get kind of lucky. Once again, be careful on your drive, and if there is wind in our faces in rookie, then it's just black line, still extra mile, but full top spin right up that, I want to say right side, but I guess it's kind of like a middle since there's a right area there. And you just basically follow the right, basically the right side. Your second shot, you're just going to jump over the rough and the sand and try to get your ball to stop up by the flag. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the yellow line unless we have wind in our face for the drive.
Yeah, and you can say it's like when designing this text guide, it was very hard to get all the different options here. I do like the yellow line as well. I really do. And for pro and expert from second tee, if we are not having like straight tailwind and having a wind that would be having, let's say we would be having a wind like 7, 8, 9 miles per hour, and we do have a club that do give us a decent amount of topspin. I would say at least like 6 bars of topspin. If we do have that, and I would be playing according to the white line, playing very aggressively, because the risk that we do take is to go into the rough or into the bunker there in the center. But yeah, that is the risk, but the reward is going to give us a short iron towards the pin, or even a wedge if we're lucky to do so. The yellow line works absolutely perfect, as RJ said. 2 bars of topspin is going to be applied on every level. Have in mind that the higher wind you're going to have is, of course, the ball guide line is going to be extended. When it comes to tailwind, when it comes to headwind, we're going to have a compressed ball guide line. The only thing, the thing that I would like to say is that from the second tee, we can even play according to the yellow line with crosswind. Then we have to overpower a slight little bit and play with a power 3 ball. But if we do have headwind or we do have crosswind and we decide that we do not want to risk playing overpower, then we'll play according to the black line and bounce ourselves over the rough and the bunker to get to the green. I would have to say, if you play according to the black line, the possibility of getting an eagle is going to reduce drastically if you play that way. That is why the yellow line is so perfect, because you can play a very conservative drive and still have a good chance towards the pin. Backspin, I would have to say, is required, especially yellow line, white line, because you do want to have the ball to get to stick on the green and not let it roll that much, because the green is very, very weird. It's slow from left to right, down and up, and every every single way. Master, if we do not have tailwind, then we play according to the black line. That's the only thing that's going to happen in Master, because crosswind is not going to make it possible for us to reach over according to the yellow line. So, also, sorry, I was about to forget about that. 10% extra for your drive. That goes for every division, as we're playing downhill. Important for that. And 10% extra means that we play downhill, the ball is affected more by the wind. So let's say you have 5 miles per hour in wind. You take 10% of 5 miles per hour, which is 0.5 miles per hour. You add that to 5 miles per hour and give you 5.5. So you adjust for 5.5 miles per hour instead. So I just want to get that in, because we're going to talk about elevation when it comes to holes further in this walkthrough. So hole number 3, we're going to play a very tough par 3, and this is one of the few par 3s that we're going to play with a driver every single time. So on any division, I will have to say. So how do we play hole number 3?
Well, I don't have a line for the way that I like to go because I like to go right up the middle. I've gone all three ways and I don't like the black line. I have not found a way to perfect it. About half the time I would use the black line, my ball would roll all the way down to the bottom. The white line, there is a way to play that. And, listen to Tommy when he explains for pro, expert, and masters. Well, at least pro and expert, because that is a good way. I got my ball really close a few times using the white line, but I completely forgot because we've played so many tournaments in between that time. But one way I do remember that worked very well for me was bringing the quarterback and going right up the middle. There are two pine trees right in the middle. You'll notice as you're aiming for the flag that there's a little V shape there that you're going to want to aim right in between. Being in rookie, even if we have a side wind, I don't really see the wind being too high, so it should be manageable. If you're worried, if you don't understand the ring wind system or anything, bring yourself a wind ball to be even just that much more careful. And you're going to want to aim well below the flag and use full backspin on your quarterback, and the ball will travel up past the hole and it'll come just a little bit down and settle right next to the hole. If you're really lucky, it'll actually go in. But if you hit a tree, you're definitely in danger of a par or worse.
Interesting, I will have to say. This is the first time we don't have a line cover that we do explain, and that was very interesting. I hope you listened carefully to that. So I'm going to take the black line and the white line. I'll have to say to just add to RJ there. So if you're playing in rookie, you don't have to always play it in the center. That's just a suggestion. That's the same
Right.
for every type of explanation or like suggestion that we're making here. And if you find another way that isn't in any of the guides here, then and it works for you, then I'm very happy for you. Then continue with that. That's the only thing that we're looking for here. Black line for me is the most common way to play from the second tee. I play with a quarterback, I play it in medium slash max distance of my club, and I add 20% because we're playing massively downhill here. And so I add 20%. Max side spin to the right, important to play with either a katana or a kingmaker that gives you that maximum side spin. If having tailwind, I do play with 4 bars of backspin, trying to aim on the just with the yellow ring, cutting the rough on the left, getting that kick from that fairway in towards the green to roll nicely down towards the pin. If I'm having crosswind, I do play with 2.5 bar of backspin, and if I do have a headwind, I play with 1.5 to 2 bars of backspin, exactly the same way. Have in mind you add 20%, very, very important. If going over playing on the white line, and I do see the white line being more common to play in master, but also in pro and expert as well. We do want the ball to get up there to just the fringe there, because the green is going to get our ball to roll drastically, might be the right word here, I don't know really with my Swinglish, but to get our ball into the green a little bit and fall back down towards the pin. I would highly suggest that you don't play that way if you have left to right wind, because the worst case you're going to get there is you're going to get stuck on the fairway on the right, and then you're going to have a very tough wedge here, as it's going to be a slope combined with playing downhill with your wedge. So it personal preference here, really, what you want and how you want to play it. The differences between pro and expert and master is of course the tee position, and we cannot play with a quarterback in master, so we do play with a Thor's hammer, Apocalypse, or the extra mile to gain that extra distance. Pro and expert quarterback works absolutely perfect, and don't forget about those 20% extra. Hole number 4, one of the Southern Pines, a par 4, which we discussed a little bit before here. So I'm very interested here, again, to hear your thoughts about hole number 4.
Well, if you have a low-level extra mile, or if we have wind in our face, I'm going to recommend, after discussing this with Tommy, that instead of an extra mile, you go with the big topper. Because with all that top spin and I would say a Titan, you should be able to clear past those trees. Now, if we don't have that type of wind, if you have a side wind or if we have a wind at our back, then it may not be necessary for a club with like a big topper. And the only concern I have with the big topper is that the extra mile has a better ball guide, and you don't want to go all the way up into the rough. So you have like a little area there between where that patch of trees is, just right to the fairway, and where the top of the fairway stops and it starts turning to the right. So that's where you want your ball to land. It's very important that you get your ball to land on the fairway and past those trees in order to make your approach shot and get on the green in two. Your second shot, I would recommend the most accurate club you have, simply because it goes to a choke point. There's a very skinny fairway up right by the green. If you're not that confident in your second shot, aim a little closer to the top than to the bottom, because it's better to land in the rough at the top and try to chip it in there than it is at the bottom, because there's a steep hill there and you may have to be using your sand wedge down there by the water. So big topper for sure if the wind is in your face, with a Titan or a Katana, because the Katana will knock down the wind and a Titan will give you the extra power. So you decide. And then for your second shot, bring a sniper or a Viper, and bring yourself a very accurate rough iron, just in case. Once again, aim towards the top if you're not sure about your accuracy to get it on the green in two. It's just much easier to chip in with, say, a razor or something than it would be at the bottom of that very steep hill with the Malibu or Sand Lizard or whatever you might be using.
I think the thing that you're saying, RJ, with the thing that with the steep hill there, it's very important. It goes for every division here. If we get down there and we are not having clubs with enough backspin, we are not going to be able to get the ball to stop. We can't shoot for the pin, which makes that yeah, it doesn't make the birdie even possible if we find that spot. So I'm going to copy the way that was explained a little bit earlier. We're going to go past the trees with our drive, and that could be played from Pro and Expertise with whatever driver really. Extra Mile, Thor's Hammer, Apocalypse. I would stay away from the big topper here, as it doesn't have enough distance from the second tee. And from third tee, we're going to play with the driver that do give us the most distance, of course, there as well. You can see the black mark here on the screen, which is amongst the shadow that comes from the trees on the right, which is a perfect way to set up there. If having whatever wind in Pro and Expert, I would be playing with a sniper for my second shot. Accuracy, ball guide, and also a good amount of backspin. And we do want to go with as much side spin combined with as much backspin possible. Yeah, side spin to the right, so we can aim as much to the left from the rough on the right as possible. I never, let's say I would be having a wind that gives me that I have to adjust 10 rings, which means that I need to adjust a lot. And it seems that you need to adjust down into the rough on the right. Don't do that. Just let them do your rings, do like 5 rings if that is going to be the number before you come to the rough. Then you're going to use curl instead, because the thing that happens when you drop down to the right is that you're getting a lower trajectory, which means that you're going to lose distance and going to mess up your original play, and it's very easy for you to get your ball to just get stuck there to the right. So then I just aim my rings down towards the right side and not getting it to fall down. I'm just using curl to counter the wind that we're going to have. And that is only basically applied if we do have wind coming like left to right crosswind. But for some reason the game makers always try to find that particular wind on this shot. So that is why I wanted to be focused on that. Key clubs here on this hole for me is to play with a rough iron with a good amount of backspin. If you don't have the Nirvana, play with the Razor or even the Machete. If Sandwich, you can play with the Malibu, you can play with the Houdini. examples, do not play with the Spitfire in a lower level and also not in level 7 because you don't have enough backspin there. That is just to counter for the risk of getting the ball into the rough or into the bunker on the right side. White line, last but not least, if we do have a massive tailwind, only is going to be applied in expert or in master. Might not even in expert, but we do need to have a wind that is around 12 to 15 miles per hour, so we can go with full topspin, most likely full overpower as well. Try to bounce according to the first box into the rough on the other side, and it's going to roll up either on the fairway or in the rough again. So we do have a very short wedge in some way, or a rough iron or a regular wedge towards the pin. Very risky approach. But if we do have tailwind, I'm going to be one of those in master at least that is going to try it. So it could reward big time, and sometimes you need to take those risky shots, especially in a tournament situation here. So we do have hole number 5 now, and I would have to say, in a personal opinion, I think this is one of the less fun holes that we do have. So I'm very interested in the take on this one, my friend.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say how hole 1, I was so excited to have such an easy par 5. And then I scroll down to this and I see this hole 5 or par 5, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, so me and Tommy actually discussed this hole at some length before going on. And I'm going to discuss my original way, and then I'm going to discuss the way Tommy also suggested, which is also a great way as well if you want to be a little bit more aggressive. I would bring the quarterback, and I would also bring a power ball. Now, I'm bringing the quarterback not for distance, obviously, but because we're going to lay up our shot by that first black square down at the bottom of the image. As close to the top of the rough as we can without getting dangerously close. Then I would bring either a Viper or a Sniper, depending on what you have in your bag. If you're lucky enough to have the Hammerhead, that would work great here as well, but not so much on your approach shot. You're going to hit, the ball's going to bounce where that first white box is, and with some topspin, you're going to want it to stop rolling right around where that second box is, and then you have a fairly straight shot on to the fairway by bouncing on that little pad, and then hopefully you're able to slow that ball down. This is where actually I'm going to kind of go back and say maybe a Hammerhead might not be the best way, because a lot of people don't have enough backspin, and the ball will roll all the way to the back of the green or even onto the rough. However, this is the way I would take, and one thing you may notice is it does take the eagle pretty much out unless you can get lucky hitting from that second white box and bouncing over into the hole, which is not very lucky. However, Tommy says, and I agree with him, that a big topper can definitely be a very good club to use here, even if it's level 1, because remember, we are using at least a power 3 ball here, because our second hit is going to be a very long one. And instead of laying up where that black box is, we're going to want to put our target at max distance with max topspin and try to get our ball to roll up as far as possible so we can follow the black lines. And by doing that, as you can see where the last black box is, that's a much closer shot than where the second last white box is. So you'll have a better opportunity at an eagle. However, you still are going to want to club with some backspin, because once again, either way you approach this, a lot of people roll right off of the putting surface onto the rough. So either way you go, I believe the white line is safer, but the black line, if you were to take it, you'd see people getting, a higher percentage of eagles. What do you say?
Yeah, I agree. First, to just start from my end, it's like this it's not going to be a general eagle hole. Even if you do have tailwind on this one, this is still going to be a general birdie hole, and that is why both me and RJ might not see this as the most fun hole. And I know there will be a bunch of players agreeing with us in that statement. But when we come up to second tee, and we first start with pro, because the wind is going to be lower in pro than it is in expert. And we're going to play with a berserker ball if we do have tailwind, with a club that gives us as much distance as possible. The topspin is going to be important here. A big topper will be possible with a power 5 ball and tailwind here in pro, and I would actually consider playing with that instead of an extra level 6, level 7 for an example. The problem we do have here is that we do need a lot of tailwind for our second shot. So if we're not getting the tailwind up to at least 8, 9, 10 with a power 5 ball, we are going to have a very tough time to get the ball to green anyway. We're going to have to play with a big dog or a cataclysm for the second shot, and that applies for even expert and also master as well. So the second shot is going to be the same. So we will have to make a judgment call here. If we do have tailwind, and we do believe that, not believe, but we do want to play very aggressively and do make our very, very best with the risk of getting into the rough or in the bunker, fairly close towards the green after our second shot, and take that as a shot with our for the eagle, then we do so. If we do not feel comfortable from the rough and from the bunker, like myself, I feel I'm 50-50 from the bunker. I hate playing from the bunker. I'd rather take a short iron or a wood club towards the pin, as that is mentally easier for me. Then I would be laying up on the left side, according to the white line, play with a wood club. You can play straightforward, just playing conservative, laying up before, like if you counted 1, 2, 3, the fourth black box, and you play with a short iron directly to the pin. The problem you do have then with the short iron there is that you're going to have to play with max backspin. You need to play with a club with a max backspin. The pin stands very short on the green, which makes that one even harder. So, and it's still the same with a long iron. We need to play with a lot of backspin because, again, the pin stands very, very short, and it's going to be very hard to approach the pin from that distance. That is also a reason why laying up according to the white line is going to be easier in terms of that, because then you can play it with a regular sniper. So the wind is going to decide a lot, but also, even if we do get tailwind in pro and expert, the eagle is not going to be there if we're not getting the lucky win for our second shot. So we will have to have that in mind. I'm sorry that I do not know the exact cutoff with the wind. It all depends on how far we're going to roll with our drive. That's why the big topper could be an excellent play, even in pro and expert. Master, then you're going to benefit from having an Apocalypse level 7 or level 6, and also Thor's Hammer level 6 and 7, because you do need that topspin. If having a really good win, we can also play directly over the rough and the sand there in the beginning. But again, if we do not have tailwind, we will not be able to reach for that second fire. According to, if we take the last white box, now a lot about the boxes here, then that is possible to do in Master with the correct amount of wind. And just to finalize everything here, if we're having crosswind or headwind, there is no chance in that warm place beneath us, if we can call it like that, to be able to reach for the green in 2. Then we're going to lay up all day and every day to the left side, in my opinion. So again, it's much to say about this hole, but there is going to be a little amount of opportunity to make the eagle here. But if you do get that eagle, you're going to be kind of alone amongst other players in the community. So, oh my god, that was a hole to talk about. So I'm happy that we taking that away, and we talk about hole number 6. A lot of lines here as well. So how do we play it from front tee?
Well, oh wow, yeah. After hole 5, it's very relaxing to see hole 6 here, at least from a rookie standpoint, because I believe there's really one way for us rookies to play this. and that is with our most accurate uh, long iron. Why did I want to say short iron? Which in most cases, people, it will be the backbone. And we are just going to aim for that island. Now, do bring a Power 1 ball, which I believe would be either a Navigator or a Quasar, just in case we have a wind in our face, so we can adjust a little further out without having to overpower. In doing so with this Power 1 ball and following the black line, I would go with 4 or 5 backspin, and that should lead you possibly for an ace. This is probably one of the par 3s that'll you'll see the most aces on, once again, at least in rookie, and it's just so straightforward. That's about the only way I would recommend going for rookie.
I totally agree, because you're most likely going to be in between club for going to play the rough bump, especially if we are going to play with a backbone, which like basically everyone is playing if they are playing rookie, because that is the best long iron to play with there. So totally agree with that. Second tee, the rough bump is going to be most applied, and as I've said in the whole guide as well, and also in the playthrough, that I'm going to decide how to play hole number 6 depending on the wind that we're going to have in the tournament. So crosswind, I'm going to play according to the rough bump. Tailwind or headwind, I'm going to play bouncing on the island. The reason I'm choosing between those two ways and not playing rough bump every single time is that we do not have that much rough to play with. And sure, we can be firm with our adjustment, but if with tailwind, we need to adjust down into the bunker, that is going to lower our trajectory, which is going to make us lose distance, which is going to make the adjustment even harder. And when we play this hole, we're going to play 10% extra because we're playing downhill on this one, which is very important to have in mind. So that is going to decide how I'm going to do there. And if we're going to play rough bump, we play with a sniper. If we're going to play on the island, we're going to play with a sniper. The only way we will be playing according to the blue or according to the yellow line would be if we play in master, because then we're going to play with a driver, because we're going to be in between clubs most of the times if we play according to the island there, and the rough bump is going to be too small to hit with a driver from that distance. But we do have the rough bump according to the yellow line. We play with a quarterback, and we play the blue line with the rocket to give us max backspin. Then you need a rocket level 10, because otherwise you're going to not have enough backspin there. So that is going to be a lot of different ways. I do highly suggest that you check out the streams, which you're going to see it in action, because now it's getting a lot of different ways to play a hole. The important part here with hole number 6 is that you decide. Doesn't matter if your friend do get hole in one every time according to the rough bump, but then you don't feel comfortable playing according to the rough bump and you get into the sand and stuff like that. Then you play how you want to play it. So that is why I decide when I get to the wind. Crosswind, it helps me because I could just adjust in the rough and have margin for hitting the ball great. I don't have that much margin when it comes to headwind and tailwind to hit great if I'm going for the rough bump. So, hole number 7, the par 4, that is one of my favorite par 4s in actually the whole game. And so it's going to be very interesting to hear how do we play this one from the front tee.
Well, I believe no matter what the wind is in rookie, you can take the black line. You might need to up the power just a little bit to adjust for the wind. But overall, I would go with the extra mile. I'm assuming that, just neutral wind or whatever, I would go about 5 topspin. And we want to bounce over the water to the second fairway. We want to be as close to the top of that fairway as possible without taking too much risk, because we could possibly use a wedge there. And I think that really raises our possibility of actually sinking it in and two. However, if you're not comfortable with that, you can take the white line, especially if you have a sniper, because of that accuracy and ball guide, and still have an excellent shot at an eagle. Just going over the water, because it's such a straight shot on in. But I mean, really, you're looking at, do you want your second shot to be with a sniper, or do you want your second shot to be with a wedge? And 9 out of 10 people will say wedge. The only thing I will say here is be very careful with that black line. You don't want the ball to carry on you and hit the rough because in all likelihood you'll end up in the water. So make sure you do back off a little bit. With that 5 topspin should give you plenty of room to where you can give yourself an extra ring or two just to make sure that your ball doesn't carry onto the rough.
Yeah, and you covered basically every angle, even for pro and expert and master. The thing that I want to add, and that applies for rookies as well, that we need to add 10% to our adjustment. And that again, that means that we are playing downhill. That is why I'm saying that we're going to add. So if we do play this one with 5 miles per hour in wind, we're going to play it as 5.5 instead and then adjust from that position. The reason I'm saying that is because, again, if we're going to play on the left side, we do not want to cut the rough and hit it into the water and lose 1 stroke on a par 4 where there will be many players that are making an eagle. 5 bars of topspin, absolutely correct. The fairway do slope to the right, even though it looked very straight to bounce on the left side over. So we need to counter that to play with side spin to the left. And from that position, a thorn or the hornet is going to be an excellent opportunity. And for the second shot, we're not going to add anything extra when it comes to elevation. And when it comes to the white line, that is mostly going to be applied if we do have headwind for pro and expert, or also a crosswind or headwind for master. The only way I would try to the left side in master if I would be having some sort of headwind. Sorry, some sort of tailwind. And also this hole in master that we played before, then we did have a bunch of tailwind, then we can actually try to go for green in 1, even though it's going to be very hard for us to make that shot. But we can try, so we won't see what type of wind we're going to get. Power 3 ball is my suggestion here because of the length to the bounce there on the left side, and we do want to stay away from having to overpower to bounce over on the left. 2 more holes to go, and we're going to go and watch or talk about 2 holes that we have been playing very recently in a tournament. I think it was the Labor Day. I'm not sure. I think so though. And we're going to start with hole number 8, the last par 3, one of the Southern Pines. So how do we play hole number 8?
Well, Tommy, you really got this down to a science. I actually used to, I don't want to say it was as bad as the the first par 3 where 50% of my shots were rolling back down to the end of the hill, but I have had my share of issues on this, and we talked about it, and you have this perfect aiming technique. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to adjust, but he's going to tell you where to put the target, because I believe that it goes for rookie all the way up to master on where to put the target. I would go with the sniper or a viper, depending on what you have. Even if you have a very low-level sniper, you can use it here because we're only going to be using 1 top spin and about 1/2 ball of right curl. The sniper gives you such a good ball guide that you'll actually see it kind of curving down towards the hole. That's an advantage of a sniper over a viper. But beyond that, you really don't need you don't need like a power ball or anything here, but you do want side spin. You want to use, I believe, full right side spin with whatever ball you're using. So Tommy, there's like one of the rings you measure up and put on the rough, and then you make your wind adjustment. I'll let you take it from there because it works like a charm.
I will, buddy. Thanks. Yeah, I'm using the red ring, just cutting the rough on the right. And it's cutting the rough on the right means that you can see on the black marker there, I'm using the red ring to be in that area and having, the target in that area, but the red ring is going to cut the rough on the right. If you do not know what I'm referring to, check out the whole guide because I'm playing it exactly that way there. And that way I'm using my landing position in basically every division. The only thing that would make me change that is if I would be playing with a strong wind left to right. That is not going to be applied in rookie, but could be applied in expert or in master. Then we can change it in 2 ways. We can either reduce the side spin to the right, or we can change our landing position to be more to the left and having the blue ring cutting the rough on the right instead of the red one. And that is basically how I measure and how I try to find adjustments. So I do have some references, which is going to make us that sometimes do not play with numbers have an easier time to just have references, reference point spots, or whatever it's called, on the fairway or on the green instead. The thing we want the ball to fall, get up to the hill on the green, fall back down, and 1 bar topspin with the wood club. And the differences is going to be is like if we take the different tees, rookie play always, no matter what type of wind, with a wood club. Pro and expert play with a wood club in tailwind and driver in headwind. Master play with a driver in headwind and tailwind. The importance with master is that if we do have headwind on that particular hole, then we cannot play with a quarterback because it's not going to have enough distance. So then we need to play with Apocalypse or with a Thor's hammer or something like that that gives us more distance, so we don't have to overpower the quarterback, for an example. So hole number 8 is a hole that you will see hole-in-ones. There is rumors that they have changed the slope down towards the pin, that it's not that consistent towards the pin anymore. Yeah, I will say we will have to see in the tournament, because I didn't notice anything when I played it in Tour 6. I think it was Tour 6, at least from the front tee, but also not from the second tee either. So we're going to see. I just want to mention it at least so we do have it on tape. Quasar or Katana or Kingmaker, we do need side spin here to the right to help us and have to stay away from the curl. So, last but not least, oh my god, it's like blue, yellow, white, black, orange. No, but still, it's so many different lines, and I guess the blue line for you, RJ, is basically purple, or is you do see it as blue?
Is it? Let's see if it's just the sunglasses. That's definitely blue.
Yeah, good. Okay, we just want to make it clear for you that haven't watched it. We had a discussion about like difference between a line there, and I know I was right, even though we can just drop that because yeah, I know I was right. So hole number 9.
Hashtag purple.
Yeah. Hole number 9. Okay, so how to gain this eagle here? Is it possible?
Absolutely, and it's possible because we have a secret weapon that nobody else out there has. And that secret weapon is this. We're going to bring a power ball and the big topper. Yes, the big topper with all that top spin will make your ball go further than the extra mile can in rookie. We're going to take that white line with any type of wind unless we have a wind directly in our face, making it impossible to get completely over. With the big topper, I want to go full top spin, and I want to put full left spin on the ball. Now, the top spin is more important. So you'll notice sometimes if you want to put more side spin on, you got to take some top spin off. Don't do that. Just with whatever remaining amount of side spin it'll let you have, just to make sure that if you accidentally hit it to the right side of perfect, you don't end up going down into the water because there is a heavy slope there. Anyway, if you do get this ball on the fairway and just a little bit beyond those trees, it sets you up for the perfect big dog shot. And what that big dog shot is shooting from the second white box. You want your first bounce, you want full top spin on the second shot. And on your first bounce, you're going to want the ball to bounce right in, I guess it would be kind of like where that white box is. But make sure that when the ball bounces a second time, that it hits the rough. In doing that, and your ball guide is long enough for you to know that, with it hitting the rough, it'll then trickle up to the green, getting you close enough to the pin for a putt without rolling off the back. With the extra mile, this shot is a lot harder. Those trees are going to be in the way, and in a lot of likelihood, or in most likelihood. I can't get the right words out. But anyway, you'll have to put a bunch of curl on there, and basically you'll be going for a birdie shot. If the wind is directly in our face, unfortunately, that takes the fun out of it, and I would just go with an extra mile and take the black line. But, oh man, if they don't give us that wind right into our face, this hole can be very fun, because with the advantage of the power ball and the big topper, we're going to be one stroke up on our opponents, both the one we're playing and in our bracket, and this can get you your gold, silver, or bronze, or even top 10 finish right here. Very important to get the eagle.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think the last tournament when we played, when this big topper route was kind of presented from not only by us but also by other people in the community, it is definitely a benefit for you to play that way, but also understanding how to play it. And we're going to play the same way in Pro and Expert. The only way we're going to change the big topper is if we would be having Thor Hammer level 6 or 7, or we would be playing with the Exomai level 8, or Apocalypse level 5 is 6 or 7. So it's not that many clubs that we're going to change from the big topper from, because of the massive tops we do have the big topper. Power 5 ball, in my opinion here, if you have some to spare. Power 3 ball will work, but if we do get the wind that we had the last time, where we had some tailwind, but mostly crosswind, then a power 3 ball will be tough for the second shot. But I agree, big topper is going to be the club. Big topper drive, but big dog, second shot, or the Cataclysm, if you do have the Cataclysm upgraded to at least level 3, in my opinion. You do want those yards in power for the second shot. Master, we are going to play with the drive that gives us the most top spin and distance, and here you can actually play a hook shot, which is going to be not that difficult, to be honest. But I saw many players go into the rough to not have that dialed in. I myself just played straightforward with a power 5 ball, bounced it over with the top spin that we do have. So this it isn't that much more to say than what you covered, my friend. I think that is that we're going to leave it with that. I think, again, if you do find it hard to understand some of the explanations, there is a whole guide for hole number 1 to hole number 9. And also a playthrough for every division. Have in mind that those guides are not with the correct tournament wind, and therefore going to be, at least the playthrough wise, is going to be remade now when it comes to tournament. But it gives you an understanding on how the holes are looking, and also in terms of explanation from my end there. So this is almost a 50-minute long video, but there is a lot to say of these particular holes, because we have played them before and we know them inside and out. Please make a comment in the comment section below if you do have any questions. If you do want to get to the text guides directly, you do have the link to the Imgur folder down in the video description below. So I would have to say, I'd say thank you, my friend, for joining in here. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and I hope I will see you the next time.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, bro.
Boom! So I will let you end it as normal. So what do we say here on the channel?
Happy stroking.
Happy stroking, everybody! And good luck in the tournament. Woohoo!